right up front, I'm opening my project. I'm going to call it Gunsmoke Demo of Premiere. So once again, I'm trying to stay as organized as I can. What's the date today? I'll put a date on there. This is the kind of thing I would do if I were doing it for, you know, a real professional job or whatever. And then I usually do a .001 because that gives me like 99 versions before I run out of space. So I like that 001. Next version that I do will be 002. So it's all about organization. So we're trying to kind of cover the stuff that's a little harder, the stuff that holes in our knowledge, things that we don't know, that there comes a point at which you're looking at this software and you know there's 5 things you don't know. You may as well learn them. You may as well figure them out, right? Have you guys used this window right here, Essential Sounds? Anybody been playing with that yet? So, well, that's nice. So here's music, which I tried to use, and then they tried to charge me. So there might be better sources of music. The other thing that people are not using as much as we probably should is you've got all these nice little tabs up here. I'm going to start using these a lot more in my own life. Like if I want to learn something, there's always really good videos here. Color though, color might be a good one because this particularly Lumetri color or Lumetri, depends on how you want to pronounce it. You know, these are all the presets that you can put on your video. So first, I think I'm going to bring some footage in. All right, so first little advanced trick is get this footage into the timeline in a way that the timeline matches it. And the way I do that is to right click it and say new sequence from clip. You guys do that once in a while? Right click it, new sequence from clip. It's nice because it will make your sequence the exact right size. All right. The only bad thing is, like, let's say this footage is smaller than high definition, so it might be better for me to use high definition, stick the footage in there with black around it. You know, maybe that would be a different option. But right now, I'll just do new sequence from clip. Here's a little video I wanted to make. A lot of times on YouTube, my best videos are instructional how-to videos. This is like a little car that I made. So right-click your footage, make a timeline. Just grab a bunch of stuff down here and put it in. So what I've done is I've gone under audio and I've selected the clip that I'm playing with here. And then I clicked on edit under essential sound. And then this is something that's been pretty new as of the last year. You can tell this video footage that I'm playing with, you know, is it music? You know, is it ambient sound of the room? Is it a sound effect like a gunshot? Or is it dialogue? In my case, I'm doing a little voiceover telling you how I built the car or whatever. So I would click on dialogue. And then it's kind of cool. This is a really good, what do you call it? Kind of like pre-pass on your sound. It'll boost your sound and make your sound a little better right up front. So I highly recommend using this for pretty much every clip you bring in. If you can't find essential sounds, remember all that junk is always under the window here.
Yeah.
The basic idea is you get a piece of sound in here, you click on it, and then you've got all these nice things you could do. Right now it's boosting the loudness. You have, like, if there's noise that you don't like, you can reduce the noise. Rumble is good to reduce. That comes from wind, you know, when the wind makes noise. De-humming, hum caused by electrical interference. It actually gives you a little instruction there. Can you see on my screen? The hum usually comes when you have bad grounding. Like if you're in your house and your ground wires aren't working very well. A lot of old places like downtown Chicago don't have very good wiring. And if you plug into the wall and maybe something related to your sound particularly, you can get that hum. It's like, or it's like, or it's both. And this will go in and actually get rid of that hum, which is pretty cool. There's a 50 megahertz hum, 50 hertz hum, and a 60 hertz hum. DS, if you have the like sibilant sounds because the microphone was weird or whatever, or a cheap microphone. You can get rid of it if it's a voiceover. Reverb, as if the room is real echoey. That's kind of cool. Like this room here probably will need that because it's a gym. Can you see I shot this in a gym? So I might hit reverse or get rid of some reverb here. Dynamics, if I want to change kind of like the quality of my voice in there. That's pretty cool. It's got a lot of stuff that you can do. EQing, like, is it a background voice? Do you want to make it sound like an intercom? Do you want to make it sound like an old radio? See, there's some great stuff you can do here. Vocal presence is probably what I would choose. They're lowering the bass and they're bringing up the highs on public radio. See the little curve they're making there? So this one is kind of enhancing the voice, human voice range. A lot of the low basses are disappearing. So anyway, that's pretty awesome. You could make it more echoey if you want by adding large room or church or whatever, thicken voice. All right, so those are all really awesome, quick little things you can do. I would do them on almost every sound clip. And then when you play it, you should be able to hear the difference. But anyway, that's something I really love you guys to play with a little bit more because sound is half the movie, right? You really want to make sure you're getting the best sound you can get. And so put your headphones on is probably the best idea and play with all these settings. So I opened up this window, Essential Graphics. This is another nice little prefab thing that they've added in. So don't be afraid to use these. I mean, it'd be good if you totally modify them so no one knows that you stole them, right? But there's some things that could make your movie look very professional here. You know, like there's some really nice credit setups. You know, you can go in and change this logo and make it your own really easily. I like the idea of using some color bars at the front of your movie. It just makes it look like you know what you're doing. And maybe kind of like little intro, something like that at the beginning of your movie. You can also download them from Adobe and get more of them. So we got, yeah, there's some pretty cool prefab stuff in here. This is a lower third. It's basically something that comes in the lower third of your video. You just bring them and drag them on. So here is my lower third. Right there. Yeah, it animates too. Check that out. So that's pretty neat. Let's double click it and see what we can change. The window for that would probably be effects controls, right? Clear audio type. I'm going to clear the audio type and let's click on music. So the cool things, there's a couple of really important things in music here that are really good to know about. First of all, if I click on this clip and let's say this clip was like the music and I'm talking in a voiceover, like what it has is what's called ducking. Let's talk about ducking a little bit. If I wanted to duck this and it's music, basically what I do is I say, okay, I have myself doing a voiceover, or I have other music, or I have a gunshot, or I have room tone from a room. Let's say I have my voiceover and I put it in, you know, and I have my music here. I could tell my music to duck, which means it will turn my music down really nicely to go with my voice. You guys ever made a movie and the music is too loud and you can't hear the person talking? I mean, even with ducking, I'll go in and tweak it because you want to make sure this tends to be a little louder than I want it to be, but you can modify that a little down here, right? You can say, well, turn the whole level down a little bit. See how I just did that? So you listen to it, and if you still can't hear your voiceover very loud, you can turn this down a little bit. But what it does is it automatically balances your music against your voice, which is really cool. It can save you a lot of time. I did it on my last project, and it worked pretty much 95% the way I would have done it. And I just went in and tweaked it just a little bit. All right, so sensitivity, you just play with these a little bit and it will, you know, turn the music down a little bit more. See, as I turn this up, it actually goes lower on decibels. You guys notice that? See that on the right there, the little numbers? ducking amount, turn it up, it turns the sound down. Fading, the only thing that I noticed with ducking when I did it automatically this last project is the fade. Like when I started talking, the fade, the music would be like ding, 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 and I'd start talking ding, ding. It would fade too quick. Okay, so here you can make your fades a little longer, slower, and that way it's not so obnoxious when the music turns down. I really want to learn more stuff, so I'm going to slow down and add in new things that I don't know as I'm working. And then I just build a client. No, I don't. I kind of do that actually, you know, because you have to keep perfecting your knowledge as you go. All right, so these are that's a really awesome thing. Essential sounds, essential graphics. I would say before you do any editing, get in here and play with this. Honestly, probably I told you this might be the first thing I do, but probably the first thing I would do is take my voiceover, right click it, and do audio gain and normalize. Normalize all peaks. First thing I do every time I bring in audio before I chop it or anything, I always normalize it. And there's a real logic behind it. Like see these waves right here? They're not going very high, see? That's probably okay on this clip because all I'm doing is walking around with making shots of the car that I made, okay? But if it's more important sound, you want to turn it up as loud as you can without distorting it. And that's how you do it. You right click it. I think you can do it up here too. Clip, audio options, audio gain. See that? Shortcut G. Let's see if the shortcut works. Click on it, hit G. Yeah, that's actually a lot faster than right clicking it. So there's 3 ways to find it. Audio gain. And basically what this does, normalizing. Gain in and of itself might be kind of bad because all you're doing is turning it up and you can't really tell if you're turning it up too much or too little, except you can watch over here and see if it hits the red too much. But this is really a great thing, and I've been doing it for like 20 years. You hit normalize all peaks to 0. So what it'll do is it'll take, if you watch closely, it'll take this highest peak and it'll boost it up as high as it can go without distorting anything else. Does that make any sense? Okay, so you guys watching these waves real quick? Watch right here, and on the count of 3, I'm gonna hit okay, and you're gonna see those waves jump up. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Nothing. Did you see it? Probably what it is one of these is already turned up really high. See that one? So don't turn it up too much more than 1 because it could start to get distorted. Let me do that again. Audio gain, or I could hit G. Normalize all peaks to 2. I'm going to turn this up. Let's turn it up to 5. Now it's going to get a little distorted. Whatever the highest peak is, it's going to be too high. So watch these peaks again. Ready? 1, 2, 3. See them boost up a little. Did you see that? That's pretty advanced stuff, but what it does is it gets it all set for you. So when you're editing, you'll have really strong volume, but not too strong and not too weak. I would also listen to it because you may be turning up something that should not be turned up. If it's just ambient noise, it's going to be too loud. Do I really want the camera noise? And do I really want that weird air conditioner buzzing noise? Do I really want that turned up to 0? Probably not. Honestly though, all your headphones and all your speakers are always screwed up, so you kind of have to start watching this more. And if it hits the red, then you know you might need to back it down, especially if it stays in the red. This is going to be more important than anything you do with your ears. This is more scientific, right? The other thing that probably none of us have used very much, I've only used it 2 or 3 times, is the track mixer. See this mixer? This is something that when you start getting a lot of tracks, it really helps to stay organized. Right now we have something on A1, which is this track here. See that? So I've got audio track, audio 1 and 3. See the mixer? Basically what it does is it takes all of these tracks and it kind of funnels them all down into your master. And the master is what we're seeing over here. That's how a mixer works. And you can turn on and off things here. You could tell it to, this is probably the coolest thing. Let me just show you a couple things. First of all, you can pan the audio left or right, which would be really important if you're, the only time I've really used this is when I did 5 channel surround sound mix one time on a really good movie I was working on, and I did it. It was really cool. I made surround sound. I just said to myself, I'm going to learn how to do this. Here I go. And I had all these tracks, and I could assign them all, you know, to be whatever track where I wanted them to be in space and stuff like that, using this. And it was really cool. I had a lot of fun doing it. All right, so what it can do is you can actually watch your whole movie and tweak the sound as you're watching it. All right, so the way you do that is you can actually record here too. So if you have a microphone plugged in, that's another cool thing about it. These are the ways that you change your sound while you're watching it. There's stuff called latching, touching, and writing. This is big time audio chunk. I only learned it because I taught the audio class. I don't really use it very often. But one of them, you pull this knob up, and as you pull it up, it will record the sound louder and louder, and it'll add little dots. But when you let go of it, it goes back to where it was. Anyway, there's like 3 different ways to do it. One is you drag it, and it'll go back to 0. It like kind of zeroes itself out because it knows it thinks you don't want to keep it really loud or you don't want to keep it really quiet. It goes back to normal, right? Another one, it'll just stay where you put it. Like if I turn it up for the whole rest of the movie, it'll stay there. If I turn it down, it'll stay there, all right? And then writing is basically, I didn't like what I did. I want to go back and redo it and tweak it one more time. And it'll take what you did and it'll kind of go off of that. So let me just show you really fast. Let's play it. And as it's playing, I would turn this up and it should be recording it, and I'll turn it down and it should be recording it. Track keyframes, volume. So here's the stuff I recorded. So here I go, I'm going to turn it up. I'm going to turn it down. And it did it, see? Mm-hmm. Then you would watch the movie, and if something was too loud, you'd turn it down a little bit. And it would record it. If you don't like it, you go back in and you could tweak it. It's changing. Yeah, it changed. See, look at that. I'm not doing that. You see how that's automatic now? See my little button? See it go up? See it go down? And all this is sort of pushing the sound down into here, and you can do one more tweak here. So like my very last movie, I can turn the whole thing up or down, the very last pass on it. All right. Anyway, this is a really good thing to get to know. Notice down here, mute, solo, record. This has record. That's a little record, voiceover record button. So if you have your headphone plugged in with the microphone, you can record your voiceover. All right, so those are some really weird advanced things. Now, do you guys remember that you can do control and add a dot, right? Does everybody remember that? To me, that's probably the most important thing you can learn in audio. Everybody see how I'm pushing control and clicking, adding my dots, right? Also, there's a quick shortcut for this, P, and I think this works better if there's a lot of stuff you need to do. Like if I really want to tweak this, you know, I would hit P, pen tool shows up, click, boom, click, drag, really nice and simple. So I've been using this a lot more. I like this probably better. But when I'm in a hurry and I know what I want and I'm on the selection tool, a lot of times I'll hit plus, just control and add in my dots like that. Premiere's made it a little harder because if you try to tweak it, sometimes you'll get these weird curves. And sometimes they're hard to work with a little bit. See that? That's kind of a nice curve though, if you want to gracefully turn your sound up and turn it back down. Okay, so that's a lot of kind of advanced getting things set up. I think that the things that I'm learning over the years is, number one, get my footage in. Number two, normalize it so that everything is kind of how loud it should be. It's close, right? And then I'll get in and then I'll use my essential sounds here and tweak each sound individually, keeping in mind that that can be turned off if I don't like it. It all shows up. Okay, so all the stuff that I did here in essential sounds is going to show up under my effects controls when I click on that clip. See all the stuff here that I've done? My lower thirds, I want to change the text. Yeah, here it is. So on my lower thirds, I can edit that all. That's kind of cool, huh? See under graphic parameters, you guys see that? And then I can change what text is in there, it looks like. The title of it, Ready Player One. Let's change this to Jumanji car. Jumanji car. Am I spelling that right? Yeah, actually looks pretty good. So once I hit enter on this, this should change to Jumanji card, right? Let's see, click off of that. Neato, isn't that neat? So if you don't like what they've got here, you can change things pretty easily. That's a nice thing about these prefab things. The other really good thing about knowing what this is this is very indicative of what you'll do when you get a job, because you don't want to have to build this from scratch. See this thing here? So what you do is you buy a disk with 500 of those, and you stick it in your library or get it from Adobe or whatever, and then you throw that on there and your boss is like, whoa, that's cool, how did you do that? And you're like, oh, I just worked really hard on it. But then you tell them the truth and you say, well, it's actually a prefab thing that I got called a template, and I got it off of Adobe's site. And he'll be like, are you sure it's not copyrighted? And I'm like, no, I'm sure it's free, we can use it. And he says, well, I don't like that color of blue in the background, it doesn't match the Jumanji orange, can you change the color of the stuff? And you're like, oh, yeah, I guess so. It's because it's your boss and you like him, you're trying to. And he says, put on here Mike's car. And you're like, okay, Mike's car. What about the apostrophe? Oh, I don't care about the apostrophe, I'm too busy for that. All right, so now it says Mike's car, right? And if you don't like the font, he says, I don't like the font, whatever. So you can go through it, and these are very indicative of what you'll do in After Effects. All last year, I just got templates and I didn't have to invent anything. I just used these templates to make my movie better. Anyway, I'll just change it so we can change it here, just to show you. So boom, look at that. Nice, right? Now that is very symbolic of the kind of stuff you might end up doing in After Effects and in Premiere. You're gonna get these templates, you're gonna pop them in there, they look great, you don't have to do any work on them, you change them, you tweak the color. Trying to think of what else I would do to get this project set up right. We talked about naming conventions. We talked about importing. We talked about setting up the audio well. We talked about changing your audio, turning it up and down. We talked a little bit about panning left and right stereo. Check this keyframe, show keyframes, see that? This is pretty advanced. And say track volume or track balance. So let's turn that on, balance. So here's the balance. I can make it go to the right channel, I can make it go to the left channel, I can make it stay there, and then I could add another dot with my control and it'll pan back. So see how I'm panning left to right here? When I did my five-point surround sound mix, I could change the audio so that if there was a dude on one side of the screen, I would pan the audio to that side. And if there's a dude on the other side of the screen over here or whatever, I'm kind of trying to show you in my video, I don't know if you guys can see it, then I would pan the audio slightly that way. So two people talking would be on different sides of the screen. It would not be too hard to do 5.1 surround if you want to do it. You just need more tracks and you pan them and put them where you want them to be. Let's say you got your movie accepted at a really good film festival like Telluride, Sundance, which is possible. They show a lot of shorts at Sundance. Honestly, probably what I would do is I would spend $500 and like have a professional dude look at it and see if they can mix it a little better for me. Because if you got something into a really good film festival like that, you would want to put your incredible best foot forward. You'd want to test everything, make sure everything's working really well, you know. Film festivals are hairy because a lot of times they don't test them at all. They just trust that you know what you're doing. They stick it on the giant projector, load it onto a hard drive and show it. And if your audio is screwed up, that's when they'll find out, is when there's an audience of 300 people. I know because I worked in those film festivals, you know. You could say here, I don't like this clip. I want to change the label to like yellow, be cautious. I don't really like this footage, something like that, right? This is like, let's say you have a big long clip with a whole bunch of clips inside of it. This can chop them up for you. At a certain point, I put on headphones and I turn it up to where it just about hurts my ears a little bit. The reason I do that is because to me, that's kind of like 0 decibels, like here. And then if it goes higher and it actually starts hurting my ears, then I'm like, oh man, no. Back that clip down a little bit. And then I'll also like be like, what? I couldn't hear that. And that'll help me know that even though this looks okay, sometimes my ears override this just a little bit. If it hurts my ears or it's way too soft, I'll tweak it just a little bit. But generally speaking, I'm trying to use this a lot more now. I'm trying to normalize everything and be a little more scientific, because you can have your speakers turned all the way down. The other thing they do in Hollywood is they actually have one tiny little, they call it the Ma Bell speaker. It's one little speaker in the middle of this whole giant studio. And one of the last things they do is they just turn on that speaker and turn everything else off. That's the worst possible scenario. How does my movie sound on the worst possible scenario? Not quite worse, but pretty much worse, right? Which basically, what is that? That's a phone. You know, most phones are pretty good nowadays, but a few years ago, your phone could sound pretty horrible. And it also gives you a really good sense of how is the music and the voiceover mixing? Are the sound effects too loud? Sometimes you would hear distortion because if you got a little bit above the 0 over here, you know, like you kind of got up into the +4s, +8 or whatever, then that little speaker particularly would go, you know, it'd crack up and crap. As opposed to all the fancy speakers, which are built so nice that they can take distortion and they can take peaking and all that kind of crap, right? All right, so that's called the Ma Bell speaker test. They stick it right in the middle, a little crappy little speaker on purpose, all right? Anything else you can think of about how to keep this stuff organized for yourself and future people? See, there's a whole thing in markers, so obviously it's kind of important, right? So let's just say mark selection, and that kind of marks this whole area, which is always, I don't know, I don't use that very often. So if I don't like that, I right click it and I clear in and out, because it'll just keep playing that same area, especially if you turn on this loop button right here. So you may not want that. The other markers that you can use is add marker, and that's just M. So let's try that. I'm going to click here and I'm going to hit M. So I added a marker to the clip. The other thing you could do is you can add a marker up here. So let me add a marker way over here. I'll add a marker here. Marker, add marker. It will add chapter marker is what this is called. See that? So now I have this. This is kind of cool. You can put notes in it. Let's go ahead and put a name on this. I'll call this sync it here. And then you can put some notes on here. Say, take that yellow clip and sync it to this explosion or whatever, you know. Flash cue point. Flash cue point's interesting because if you export this video, it will keep this cue point, and when you bring it into Adobe Animate, it will have a mark on it, and you can use that to click a button and jump to it. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Remember, Adobe Animate's meant to make kind of interactive stuff too. And see, there's no notes or anything here. You have to roll over it to see it. So I don't really like that. I don't know. Let's see if for some reason it didn't remember that it's a comment marker. So I don't like that. You have to roll over it to get it to show up. Okay, so, but this is kind of cool though. Check this out. Now that I got a marker here and I got a marker here, I can drag this over and watch what it'll do. It'll actually snap to it. If I think I have to hit shift or something, no. Yeah, see how it like snapped to it? Snap, see that? That's really nice if you have a sound effect or some music and you want to snap something to it. So I just line those up, boom, done. Can you guys remember that? I've used that, not too often, but I have used it. So that's how you add markers. Maybe that'll help you keep things organized. So really the answer that I'm looking for on this is, in Hollywood, for example, they might have really strict rules. Like they might say, this is not V1. Let's say all this is music. Track 1. Track 2, all this is sound effects. Track 3, all this is titles or something like that. Track 4, all this is voiceover. You see what I'm getting at? Same with audio, you know, voiceover, ambient sound, music. You could put each one in its own track. And then you would be like, all the voiceovers need to turn up, boom. All of the music needs to go down a little bit, boom. All the sound effects need to stay right where they are. And all voiceover needs to go way up. All ambient, you know what I mean? You could theoretically work each track individually. Check this out. You can go under here, and we were talking about changing clips volume. We were talking about changing a track. You could change like the whole track, not just one clip. All the stuff I've done is on the whole track because I did it up here in the mixer. See that? You can change the clip or you can change the track, the whole track. Clip keyframes. Here's my clip keyframes. My clips don't have anything on them. Right now, only my mixer has stuff on it. All right, so that's a lot to think about today. So think about that. Maybe you guys should start putting all of certain video audio in a certain track down here. And that'll make it easier to find when, because if I open this movie up and there's like, you know, 8 or 9 layers, which there probably should be, it would be helpful for me to know kind of that everything that is a voiceover is right here on this track, right? So that's a lot about staying organized. So we've talked mostly about setting your project up today, right? Project manager, this is the last thing I'm going to go over today. We've covered a lot of good stuff today. I'm glad you guys all showed up so nobody missed this. Sync settings, does anybody know why we'd want that? I was going to say one thing, but there's actually 2 here, it looks like. Sync settings is basically if I want to edit with you, like one of you guys are helping me on a project, or you say to me, Vance, can you look at this project and help me figure out why this footage isn't working? We can sync settings so that whatever settings I have, you have, use settings from your account, stuff like that. This is for collaboration, which is becoming more of a thing, right? You might have your boss, especially if you're working remote, which all these jobs are listing now. If you have your boss working on it at the same time as you, that's why you might want to do this, the sync thing. See that? Capturing, you hardly ever need that anymore because everything's on little cards, but you could capture by plugging Firewire into your camera or USB, stuff like that, right? USB 3 can do it really well. USB 3 is a new faster form of USB 3, USB, which is really super fast. Some drive, if you buy a drive, you guys, in the next year or 2, make sure it's USB 3 compatible. It's blue colored on your computer. Anybody have a new computer with like a blue color USB? It's really nice. I edited a whole giant movie, my wife's movie that I was working on last year. The whole giant movie I edited on an external hard drive, and I didn't have to put anything on my computer. It was awesome. So the next drive I'm going to buy is going to be a super fast USB 3 drive, and it worked beautifully. So I highly recommend that if you ever get a drive, make sure it's USB 3 because they're really fast as long as your computer has it, right? So capture-wise, there's not a lot you do with that nowadays, but I mean, it is interesting to look at. This is what the capture window looks like. This used to be the only way you can bring in footage because we didn't have SD cards. What you do is you plug your camera into a Firewire, which was the only wire that was fast enough to do it. You plug that into Firewire on your computer, which is the only thing fast enough to do it on your computer. And it was kind of neat because you could play your camera once you got it hooked up right. It took forever, but you'd eventually get your camera hooked up. And I could play my video camera, and then I could say right here, so you could like say in, and then you watch it and you're like out. And then you come up here and you would tweak this a little bit, the ins and outs. And then you'd get all that ready and save it. And it would save an edit decision list, a huge long list. And then you would just go out and eat and you would hit record. And what it would do is it would go to the spot on your video and it would roll into it and it would actually record off of your videotape. Isn't that weird? You would have done set in, set out, and then you log the clip and then you go eat and it goes and it was really weird. Your camera would be there working itself. It was kind of freaky. It would be like, this is how we used to do it. There's probably someone out there that still does it this way. Oh, I love this one. If you're ever confused about why footage isn't matching each other, go for projects, go to get properties for file. And it gives you a lot of nice details about any of these files I'm working with. Look at it. It tells you what kind of compression it has, how big it is, the size of it, what the frame rate is. This is really weird. I had no idea I was shooting at 60 frames. That could really mess my movie up. It tells you what audio quality, how long it lasts, whether the pixels are square or rectangular pixels, whether there's an alpha channel or a see-through chunk, what type of codec, H.264, that would be really important to know. All right, did everybody see where I found that? You can also get it by right-clicking it. All of these are very helpful, actually. If you want to rename it, if you want to make a copy of it, if you want to find it in your little bin, if you want to find it on your computer, if you want to study what makes it tick. So let's hit properties again, and it shows up all the information about it. I do that a lot because I'm using so many different kinds of footage now. People, like I did the high school video and I had 20 different kinds of footage in one video. And I had to kind of study why some things weren't working. If you guys go to do the gun smoke footage and you bring it in and you can't see the audio like mine, see that? You may have that glitch on yours. All I did was install this. I haven't changed it, so I don't know why it's glitching like that. What you do is you right click it and you make a new sequence from the clip, and for some reason it works. Look at that. So the gun smoke footage, if it comes in and it's like this, there's a bug. So you have to like right click it and say new sequence from clip.
Oh, okay.
At least you'll have it and then you can select it. The only problem is it makes your movie kind of disorganized because you have so many projects, you know, that you're not really using. And then I bring it over here and once I paste it, it's fine. Look, everything's there. I don't get it. I don't know what that is. That's been doing that for years. It's certain kind of QuickTime footage with me. I think I need to install a fancier QuickTime and then it'll work better. The only other thing that you really should know is when you're done with your movie, you want to use the project manager sometimes. Well, eventually you're going to run out, and what you might want to end up doing for each project, I never delete a project until it's been like 6 months or a year. I just pile them all on hard drives just in case. But this is a very handy thing. Like, let's say I love this movie and it's pretty much done. You hit the project manager and you can say, all right, I really want to keep these 2 movies for the future. All the rest I don't care about. And then you say, anything I'm not using, get rid of it. You can also, this is really cool, if you, for some reason it's not showing up, you can make little handles so you can still edit it a little bit. I don't really need to include this for reasons I don't necessarily, you don't need previews and crap. You're getting rid of anything you don't need, cleaning it up a little bit. You can collect all the files and put them in a folder. Like, did you guys notice when I imported stuff, I imported it from all over my desktop? Did anybody notice that? Probably a bad idea, right? Wouldn't it be smarter for me to put them all in a folder and then import them? Much more organized, right? So this will actually pull everything from anywhere in your computer and it'll stick it in one nice, neat little folder for you. That's what I love about this. If you want to get real advanced, you can go here and you can say, actually take the files and take individual clips and make me a new copy of everything and put it in a new folder. All right, does that make sense? This is super awesome because it gets rid of all the crap you don't need. It archives a really nice copy of it. And then 5 years later, you can open this up and it has only what you need and you don't hog up your hard drive with crap you didn't use. And it tells you here, this whole project is going to be, it'll tell you, you can calculate it here. You do it and then you open it up and make sure it works because once in a while it gets corrupt. All right, open it up, make sure it works. So the last thing you do on a job is just archive it, make it really, really safe, double check it, triple check it, save it, back it up in 2 spots, hide one of your hard drive in case someone burglarizes your house so you don't lose that one hard drive. Like right now, my hard drive's on the floor if someone broke into the house because I want a backup of everything, It's worth the $150 to back up all your stuff. That's it.